Hey guys, and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the Percy Jackson movie, The Lightning Thief. What the Percy Jackson movies lacked was the quirky quaintness that you find in the books. And instead of making a kids movie, they made a giant action blockbuster. And while commercially successful, completely sucked. The movie was terrible. And even understanding the constraints of the medium, the plot was whittled down so much and altered that it just didn't resemble the books anymore. It became its own story, with its own plot and its own characters. We didn't get to discover the world along with Percy. Instead, we were thrown in head first and were completely bewildered, just like him. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it means we're introduced to a new set of rules in a very short period of time. And we aren't given the opportunity to fit those pieces together for ourselves. So much of what made the books so unique and great was ignored. While the demigods were still ADHD and dyslexic, that aspect of who they are was underutilized. Especially when the main purpose of these books was to create representation for children with learning disabilities in fiction. So many things in the movie were altered. Like, demigods can't use electronics. It amplifies their aura and attracts monsters. Which, as you can imagine, is bad, as monsters like to eat demigods. But the movie gave everybody a cell phone. And not only that, but Luke had this entire gaming system set up in his little hut. I get that maybe they wanted to give the movies a little more of a modern feel, but they completely lost sight of what makes up a demigod's world. They don't care about video games. They're there to learn to protect themselves, to protect their family, and the concept of the mist was completely left out. All of a sudden, monsters cared about mortal people, and the mortals could see into the magical world. It was no longer separate. It no longer stood apart. The mystical and magical was on display for everyone. It was no longer a hidden world. And then, everyone had their own individual cabin. There was no idea of bonding with your siblings, or not quite knowing where you fit in yet by getting placed in the Hermes cabin because you're unclaimed. So it never showed how isolated Percy was as a son of the big three. There was no suspense in Percy's parentage. There was no moment of uncertainty or insecurity. On top of that, the costuming was weird. I can understand the kids of the camp running around in battle gear for Capture the Flag, but where is their day-to-day activities and their camp tees? The Camp Half-Blood tees are iconic. And then there's the outfits that the gods wore. What were they thinking? I understand the opening of the movie, you're introducing a new world, and so the period attire makes a little sense because you want to know who you're dealing with. But, I mean, look at Hades. He just looked like some washed-up rock star. By changing the attire that the gods wore, you erased part of their personalities. One of my biggest bones to pick, out of many, is where is Annabeth's dagger? Her dagger is an extension of her. It represents her, it defines her, and it connects her. It's the physical representation of the hope that she clings to, that Luke will be saved. We only get to see a brief glimpse of her skill with it at the very end. But to be a wielder of a dagger in battle means you have to be cunning and wise. You have to understand your opponent's weaknesses. Annabeth is the daughter of Athena. She needed her dagger. And then Percy can't breathe underwater and he emerges wet? As the son of the sea god, it should roll off him. Literally. Overall, the movie was poorly paced and cheesy with no subtext, and the dialogue was terrible. Honestly, I felt nothing for the characters. because we never slowed down from that fast-paced action to really get into compelling character development. I especially didn't care about Sally Jackson. I could have taken or left her. We're never given the time to care about her. The entire beginning of the book sets up the relationship that Percy has with his mother, but that's missing in the movie. By creating their own plot, we missed integral moments in the overarching story, like the winged shoes trying to pull Grover into Tartarus, or Percy's ability to talk to horses. We're also introduced to Annabeth's fear of spiders, and entire characters are missing, like Clarice or Mr. D. We're not even introduced to Aphrodite and Ares. And in the book, Ares is the main antagonist, which means that in the movie, they not only change the villain, but they change the entire storyline. Instead of a quest to find the lightning bolt, it becomes a quest to find these pearls, when in the book, the pearls are a gift from Percy's father. In fact, the movie added a lot of extra drama between Percy and his father that didn't need to be there. So at the end of the movie, instead of fighting Ares on a beach in California, he was heading off with Luke with flying shoes on the top of the Empire State Building. It took an important moment away from Percy. The moment that you realized that he was willing to stand up to the gods. That he wasn't going to be pushed around by Ares, that he was willing to fight. While the graphics and the special effects were superb, the story, acting, and feel of the movie sucked. It was no longer a story for children, but a teenage melodrama, and one that fell flat. So that's it for this episode of Worse Than Fiction. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in next time when I analyze the Sea of Monsters to see if they learn from their mistakes. Cheers!